Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you to We'll Bring the Popcorn, the ultimate film and TV podcast.
On today's episode, we're going to be giving you an early preview of the new film Caught Stealing, as well as reviewing the first 3 episodes of Alien Earth.
We're kicking this week's show off by letting you know that we've relaunched our merch store. So we've gone with a new provider. We've got some new merchandise items, new t-shirt designs, and everything. You can check that out at shop.willbringthepopcorn.com.
Yeah, we've got some awesome designs in there if you're fans of a show like Stranger Things or movies like Kpop Demon Hunters. All kinds of different options for you to check out at the new merch store. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. Also, if you don't want to get a new t-shirt or any of the new stuff, there are options available to just donate as well if you'd like to financially continue able to support us as well. We would love your support.
Now, I do want to go back to K-pop for a second because I did take my girls to see the sing-along this weekend. I actually had my niece and one of my youngest daughter's friends with the stuff, and it was something, I'll tell you. Like, I knew going in it was going to be a little wild and crazy, and it was fun to see. Like, there's a lot of little kids getting up and just belting out the songs, and it was so cute and funny. But then there was also the bad side of it, where you had 10 to 15 kids with their phones on, screen bright as could be, recording the songs as they go along. Like, it's fun to let them go have crazy, but that's going a little too. You're still in a theater watching a movie and you're letting your kids record, and I think one was live streaming it as well. Like, that's going a little bit too far, but the ones who were there to sing and dance and have fun with it, like they made it a really fun and interesting thing. Like, it just shows how big this is, because it's potentially looking like it's going to be the top movie of the weekend. Just doing this sing-along release.
And it's incredible. It's got so much momentum right now. It's absolutely dominating music charts still. I still believe Golden is the #1 song in the country, which is insane. Just an absolute pop culture juggernaut. You almost wonder if it would have done as well had they gone straight. I mean, we had talked about it yesterday. Like, if it had gone straight to the theaters instead of, like, just blowing up on Netflix like it did, would it have the same cultural impact that it did? I don't know, but good on them for wising up and throwing out a sing-along version of this that people can go. I know it's not your typical, like, theater-going experience where you're just there to see a movie for the first time and it's meant to be, you know, in a more quiet environment where you could still react to stuff. But I mean, we've gone on so many different diatribes about theater etiquette and everything like that over the course of this show that I'm not going to beat that dead horse anymore until it's necessary to do so again. But I'm glad they had a great time, and I'm happy to see some of these, like, sing-along type, you know, versions of these movies being put out in theaters. I know Wicked was another one that had a really big, you know, type of theater experience with the sing-along versions. I know Minecraft had, like, a version of the movie coming out where you can go and just be silly and throw popcorn and do all kinds of goofy stuff.
That one didn't do as well.
It didn't do as well, but I'm kind of happy that you're seeing more versions of these movies. If it gets people back out and going and seeing these movies, like, I'm okay with it. I'm going to avoid those types of showings just because of how I like to experience movies in the theater, but I mean, there's absolutely an avenue for that. And I know some theaters have even been toying with potentially showings where it's okay to have your phone out and do all this other stuff that, like, if you really need to have that type of experience in the theater, like, that option could be for you. If it gets people in the theaters at the end of the day, I'm all for it.
Yeah. But it's also, there still has to be something where you draw the line. If you got to tell people, just keep your phones away and stop talking during a movie, because as we're like the Alamo Draft House, they've been complete opposites of all the others because they're very strict and stern. We will throw you out if we catch you on your phone or talking during a movie. So, and then there's trying to skew to the older demographic as well, who wants to have that more private viewing. Like, you want to be able to watch it and not be disturbed by other people. And I knew going into this K-pop sing-along it was going to be a little crazy, but there is that line. Like, it's a sing-along, not a talk or bring out your phone along. It's a sing-along. You're there to sing and dance and have fun with it. But it was just, some parents went and let them go a little too crazy, because we also had a few that was in our row had those light up spinning toys. So you're in a dark theater and you've just got a corner of the theater that is just glowing. Like, it was like they were at a full-on concert.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that could be fun. They're not really hurting anything necessarily, but I kind of get your point. But I like that there's these different types of experiences that people can have. And like I said, at the end of the day, if it's getting more people out to the theater to see these films and supporting them, I'm all in favor of it. I'm really excited to see the way the box office does shake out this weekend, because I know a ton of people that took their families to go see these screenings.
This was
Like,
full,
it's
and
going to
every
do
screening
well.
was full.
Yeah, and this wasn't a big release as far as like original movies this week, so the opportunity was there for it to have a big presence at the box office, and I'm glad it got that chance because I know you and I even like in previous episodes have talked about just the enjoyment that we've gotten from this film that we weren't expecting to get. Just based off the premise alone and the fact that it's blown up as much as it has, is you just never know sometimes what things are going to catch on, and this thing is blown up in such a huge way, and I love to see it. Like it's a really fun movie. If you haven't checked it out, you're probably one of like 10 to 15 people who've maybe never even heard of it or seen it up until this point. But if you haven't, check it out. It's worth a watch. It's a ton of fun. The music's incredible. It's a fun story. It's going to be around for a while because we're talking about multiple sequels and a live action film potentially coming out of this. So it's going to be interesting to see the staying power of this movie.
See, the thing is, my kids have watched it 10 to 15 times, and I've been around when they watch it, but I had really seen the beginning. I had seen a little bit of the middle, and I hadn't seen the whole movie all the way through until
you went and done
until
this.
I saw it in theaters and stuff. I've heard the soundtrack about 300,000 times so far, and it's an incredible soundtrack that should be up for like an album of the year and everything else because it's been that good and had that big of an impact. Like it should be winning awards, but that was the first time I had seen it all the way through.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's so good. I'm glad you got to finally catch it from beginning to end instead of the bits and pieces that I know you'd seen it before, but well worth the watch if you haven't.
Yeah, this is a really interesting thing for Netflix, though, because there's been a lot of conversation about them kind of trying to end the theatrical experience. They want people to watch it on streaming, and you've got so many different movies that are going straight to Netflix, but their directors, producers, stars are all asking for theatrical releases. And Guillermo del Toro is one that has a Netflix film coming up with his version of Frankenstein. We know it's not going to be the standard regular Frankenstein that we all looked at, but he did get a theatrical release for it. So he's getting a limited theatrical release for Frankenstein on October 17th before it premieres on Netflix on November 7th. So they've given him kind of a short little window for it to come out in theaters, but we've also got the Knives Out series that next one they're trying to get that in theaters. So this success of K-pop is going to be, and especially if it does 20-30 million here in this weekend with the sing-along, is really probably going to get Netflix thinking a bit of how many more of their films are going to give those limited releases in theaters.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of an outlier for me, at least as far as K-pop goes, because it's been such a huge pop culture juggernaut that it's been. I know we've said that several times now, but there's other films that they've tried to throw out in the theaters before that have done marginally okay, but then you have people willing to wait a couple weeks to just see it for, quote unquote free on Netflix because it's already a built-in cost for them for already paying for it on a monthly basis. But I know you and I are both have been looking forward to this for well over a year since it's been announced that they were working on this. So we, being the old school film heads that we are, absolutely going to see this in the theaters even before it comes out on Netflix. Like, we're not going to wait for it. So I'm excited that it's getting a theatrical release. Excited for the cast. A little bit of footage we've seen of it so far looks really cool. Like I'm excited for that film for sure. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things that if they decide they want to give it a couple weeks in the theaters before it comes out, I'm all for it. Like, I get it. Like, we're not necessarily the best people to ask about that because our preference is going to the theater and seeing it. But, it's kind of playing with fire. Like, what is the cost of putting it in the theater and what value add is it going to give you to do it for a few weeks before you put it on Netflix? So we'll see how this one turns out. I know we're definitely among the people that are going to be seeing it night one in theaters. So I'm excited for that and excited to check it out for sure. But it goes to that back and forth that they keep doing. Like, yeah, you have a success like Kpop Demon Hunters doing as well as it does for this, but it may not necessarily be the case for other things they put out. Who knows? Like, time will tell, but I'm excited that they're at least giving it a chance.
Yeah, and I'm excited for Frankenstein because, I mean, it's Del Toro. You already know his filmography and how he does the strange and the horror, but this isn't supposedly going to be like a horror film. He's taking a different approach to it, but he's also kind of going old school filmmaking with it. He doesn't want AI. He doesn't want a lot of CGI. He wants just practical old school filmmaking, and that gets me excited as well. I mean, you got Del Toro, old school practical filmmaking and Frankenstein, it seems like it's going to be a great combination.
Yeah, it's a good recipe for success for any type of film. I'm excited for that one to come out. I know another one that we've been talking about for a while is the Gears of War film. David Leitch has come out and said that he's going to be directing it for Netflix, just keeping the Netflix integration here. And he's got John Spates on board to help write the script, who, wrote the Dune films. He's wrote Doctor Strange, like a pretty good combination of cast. This is a film that feels like it's been in the works for at least 10 to 15 years at this point. Like it's one that we didn't think would ever see the light of day. And I know we've talked before, like Dave Bautista's been on board trying to get this movie made forever too. So we'll see how this looks, when it all shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, you got someone who's done, he co-created John Wick, he's done Bullet Train, The Fall Guy, he's done a lot of action stuff. So you got potentially a pretty good guy to be leading up this, but it's also, Gears of War is one, especially with that first one. I don't think it held the same vibe as it went on, but the first one really went deep into the gritty, dark survival horror type of aspect of it. And if they keep that in the film, that's going to be like doing a rated R kind of horror action film with the Gears of War story there could be really good and really solid. The only thing is like pulling off that look in real life, because as we mentioned before, the guys, even the girls in there are gigantic and the suits they wear are gigantic. You've got to find that balance between the size of your people and the size of the suit to not make it look kind of cartoonish where the going. Like we've got Dave Bautista, who has been for as long as they've been talking about doing a film or series based around Gears of War, wants to be Marcus, and they even put a skin of him into the game and more of it. But it's also known that he has slimmed down a lot. Like he's given up having that big, huge physique as he's gotten older. So we'll see if he still potentially gets involved with it or not, and what kind of cast we see. But I just really hope they stick to that dark horror aspect of the first game, because it just works so well.
Yeah, the tone is a big important factor in the way this film's going to be received, and hopefully they keep to that theme as far as the games go. It's going to be almost impossible to get people of that build and physique to lead up this film, so casting is going to be important of it too, as it usually is. But I'm excited. They got a really good 1-2 punch on that film for sure to get the script and get it directed, and now just landing that cast and putting it together for Netflix. I can't wait for the day that it finally comes out. In 2030, it's going to be great when the Gears of War film.
It's just now being written, so we have no idea when it's going to start production.
Like 2030 may not be that much of a far stretch with the way some of these productions have gone for this stuff, but yeah, I'm excited for that one to finally see the light of day for sure.
Yeah, one movie that I know everybody's looking forward to if you're a comic book fan is Avengers Doomsday, because it's the first Avengers film since Endgame that we've had. And there's been a lot of secrecy behind it, but Alan Cumming has been talking about it a lot too in various ways. He already got in trouble by Marvel once because he said he has a fight scene with Pedro Pascal, but now he's come out saying that he doesn't really even know what he's filmed because he filmed it in isolation with green screens. They replaced faces, they changed names and all this other stuff. The internet's gone crazy over it, and all of them saying that, oh, well, now the film's going to be horrible. Why are they doing it this way? This, to me, clearly feels like a guy who already got the Marvel lawyers and other people talking to him like, you're not supposed to talk about this stuff. This is him trying to get out of having to say anything about the film because he doesn't want to leak anything else. Because we went with that with Mark Ruffalo and how Don Cheadle got on him and on, and Tom Holland always leaking and stuff. They've really cracked down on that in Doomsday. They want to keep it secret. To me, this just feels like a guy who's been warned by Marvel, like, you don't say anything.
Yeah, the mouse definitely knocked on his door and told him to calm down with it, probably. But, I mean, the internet freaking out about this, couldn't imagine that ever happening. The internet is totally calm and rational about everything, because that's one thing we know about the internet. But, no, this is one that's got a ton of secrecy. There's bits and pieces, like you hear rumblings of two of the main actors in the film supposedly getting into an altercation, like into a fight. I don't care about any of that stuff. Just give me a good movie. I don't care about the drama that goes into making these films. It's super uber secret, but they're very forthcoming with how many people are going to be in the film to begin with. So they know it's going to be just a gluttony of people that, you've seen over the last 10 to 15 years of these films. And, they're all going to have some, part in it, and some, playing roles that they've played forever, other people playing variants apparently. Like it's gonna be interesting to see the film when it finally sees the light of day. I just hope that they finally stick to this time frame that they've already delayed once, and hopefully it sticks to that point and it gets out now at the current date that it's supposed to be at, because you've heard rumblings about, production delays and other things that have caused it to go back even further. Like, don't delay it anymore. Get this movie made and get it out, because, Marvel's definitely teetering on, are they back, are they not? It's been kind of a back and forth with people. Like, plenty of people are, kind of off-put by Marvel right now, and then others are just clamoring for the next thing to come out. But, hopefully this story is something really solid and something that everybody can get back excited for Marvel for, because it's a little bit overdue with the quality of most things that we've gotten in the last couple of years, for sure.
And just comic book movies in general are not performing like they used to. Like Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four First Steps were great movies. Go back in our archives, see what we thought about them, but they were really well done, fun movies, but they didn't do well at the box office. Even Superman has crossed 700, close to 700 million now. But we were used to these comic book movies making $1 billion plus easily out the gate. So
got spoiled.
It's really going to see, is Doomsday going to be the one that brings us back with Avengers, because of the cast of 376 different people in it. Could that be one that gets it back? I mean, like I said, you've had some really good comic book movies out this year, but they just haven't performed. We've had some more mediocre ones with the last Captain America movie as well that could have been better if they just tightened up that script a little bit more. But I think you are feeling that burnout with comic book movies.
A little bit for sure, but you talk about getting back to making $1 billion. I mean, one thing we know, I'll say it to the camera right now. I guarantee you next year Marvel will have $2 billion films, and it's the only two films apparently they're releasing next year. It's going to be Spider-Man and it's going to be Avengers Doomsday. I think both are going to make $1 billion. I'll go, come back and timestamp this video in a year and a half and let me know how wrong I was. But I can almost guarantee the Spider-Man film is already getting a ton of buzz behind it. Like, you're seeing images, and like they're being very open about like the shooting locations and things. The suit for Spider-Man looks
showing him
incredible.
doing practical web swinging, like releasing all of that.
For sure. It looks super cool. I'm so excited for that. Spider-Man is about as bankable of a property as you can have in movies right now. And then Avengers, if you slap the Avengers on something, it's going to do probably significantly more than most standalone Marvel properties are going to do. So we'll see how that one does for sure. But I'm pretty confident in saying both of those are going to be $1 billion movies when they come out. Just one, due to the hype around them, and two, they're easily the two most bankable entities that Marvel has with Spider-Man and the Avengers. So I'm fairly confident that it could get to that point.
Yeah, I think one thing to look at for this year is, with the third Avatar movie coming out later this fall, is that has made a crap ton of money through the first two films. Yeah. Looking at that box office to see, is it just comic book movies or is it movies in general? Because we have seen that a lot of movies have been doing a bit worse than everyone expected. Like, we've only had a few more of the independent films that cost very little to make have made quite a bit. You got F1 that did cost a lot to make, but it, for an original film, made a lot of money. I think it's actually grossed more than Fantastic Four First Steps did globally and everything. So it's been really interesting to see how the box office has been this year between comic book movies, original movies, and that, because you've had some make a ton. You've even got the Niza 2 movie in China that's like the highest grossing film of the year, that's done gangbusters. It's approaching $2 billion, but
crazy.
It's, getting US release as well, but it's been the last few years, even since COVID, it's been such a strange time at the box office. It's really hard to predict what a film's going to do anymore.
Yeah, and now you throw in the added part of films aren't staying in theaters as long, so there's not as much urgency from a lot of people that, with everything being expensive it is, if you're already paying that much for a streaming service and you're willing to be patient and wait a few weeks for it to come out, like, I'd love to see the streaming numbers that some of these movies that aren't doing as well at the box office are doing once they get on streaming. Like, is the viewership of them going up significantly because people are just being patient and waiting for it to come in at home? I get it. Like, especially if you take care of your home and have yourself set up. Like, I have what I think is a phenomenal setup here in my house to, watch things and, do that. But I love the theater experience so much that I'm willing to still go out and see it. But if I wasn't, I'm set up pretty well. And I know most people, invest well in their TVs and their sound systems and things like that at home to, make that experience just as good as the movies, and you're not paying the exorbitant prices to go and, buy snacks and do all these other things.
Yeah, and what we talk about a lot too is the people have made it worse as well.
That too.
People with their phones out the entire movie, having full conversations through the movie, just not caring about the people around them. That's, that's some movies we've gone to. I've been like, I almost would rather watch it at home with how the people are being here. Like it's so hit or miss on knowing what type of people you're going to get in a theatrical experience. And going into a kid's movie, you're probably going to have a lot of kids talking and moving around, but we've had kids screaming and running and yelling and using the theater as a jungle gym. And like there's some people that just take it too far with how they do, and that's turned a lot of people off. And I see that online and everywhere else too. Like some people say it's the cost gets some, other people, no, the cost doesn't get me. It's dealing with everyone else who doesn't know how to be quiet and stay off the phone so we can enjoy a movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into it for sure. I know there's a show that you and I have both been looking forward to for a while, and that's the spinoff of The Office known as The Paper that's coming out. And it's got a little bit of an interesting update to its release schedule. Like we thought it was going to be this weekly episodic release. Peacock has been doing with a lot of their properties. Like I know you and I are in the middle of watching Twisted Metal season 2 that's coming out. That's been doing like weekly drops or every so often doing 2 episodes in a week and whatnot. But it appears that the paper is going to have all 10 episodes drop on September 4th, which is kind of a surprise because we were expecting that weekly rollout. And I know the opinions on the trailer have left people with kind of mixed feelings about it, but it's an interesting shift from Peacock for this show that a lot of people have been looking forward to.
Yeah, and especially that it comes after. Before they debuted the trailer, they were like, okay, it's going to be like, I think, a 2-episode premiere, then we'll do like 3, then we'll do 2, then we'll do 2. And they had kind of a weird drop to it. But after the trailer, it was kind of interesting. We're only a couple weeks out from it, like 2 weeks from the show premiering, and they're like, oh, we're just going to drop them all at one time. You don't know if that bodes well for the show. Like, do we like it enough that we're just going to go ahead and drop all episodes and let you binge? Because The Office is one of the big binge shows on streaming and stuff for them to, just go through and watch multiple episodes. But it's really interesting they did that. I join in on a little bit of a mix from the trailer. I didn't have many laughs on it. But it is important to remember The Office first season was decent. But it wasn't until season 2 that they really started getting their groove and take off, because a lot with that they were trying to mimic the British Office a lot, and they weren't really finding their footing with what they wanted to do for this. Because, the British Office was only, 2 seasons, 2 series, as they call it. It wasn't very long. And so it's going to be real interesting to see if it does have a so-so first season, but they still go on with a second season if it gets better. But from that trailer, it didn't. The funniest thing to me and most people was seeing Oscar in it and having his reaction to having the camera crew. Like, that was funny, but it's also a joke that really only works for the old school Office fans. It's not exactly for the new fans. It's going to be real interesting what this means for the series and the quality of it. Like, your mind will instantly go, well, they're dumping it all at once. It means they don't like it. Well, Netflix has been dumping them all every time, but it's to change it from being that weekly multi-episode drop to being a single drop. We'll see how that means for the quality of it.
Yeah, for sure. And, we've talked ad nauseum on this show that these streaming services are not afraid of only giving a show 1 season and then cutting it, if it doesn't perform well. So time's going to tell for this. If you're a fan of The Office like we've been, we're definitely planning on checking it out, but if the quality's not there, it may not warrant a second season. We'll see, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, because it's also interesting to throw in there, like the new Dexter series. It already had been greenlit for a second season, and they just canceled it. So even if you already greenlit something, it doesn't mean that you're going to be golden to keep going or not. Like, that was kind of a surprise to a lot of people that you already said there's a second season coming, then you canceled it.
Now, keep in mind, that is Original Sin. That is not Resurrection. That is still currently airing. Original Sin's not getting a second season. Resurrection, still don't know how that one's going to end, but I've been loving it. Like, Original Sin, I watched a couple episodes. It was okay, but the Resurrection one with Michael C. Hall in it, absolutely has been fantastic, and I've been enjoying the ride that they're going on with that for now. A couple episodes left in the season. We'll see if that moves forward depending on how the way this ends for this season, but definitely one to keep an eye on for sure if you're a fan of Dexter. They've definitely course corrected with the way the regular show ended with Bloodline, and then this one now with Resurrection. I've really been excited with the continuation of the story of Dexter. I think they've finally gotten it back to some pretty high quality stuff now with the new season for sure.
See, I haven't still never watched anything Dexter, so I forgot that they had two series going on at the same time.
Yeah, Original Sin was more of a prequel, earlier days of Dexter, and this one is a continuation from the end of Dexter into Bloodlines, and then this is a pickup from Bloodlines called Resurrection. So.
Is that where all the jokes came from with them trying to make Michael C. Hall look younger by just putting a wig and like a baseball cap on him?
That was for Original Sin, yeah.
Make him play a younger version. No, he's still like 40, 50 years old. You're just putting a wig and like a baseball cap or something. Oh, hi, I'm a teenager now.
Yeah, definitely not the case for that, but he does the narration.
Okay.
He narrates he's the voiceover for the show, but Resurrection is a lot of fun. If you get a chance to get into it, there's a lot of cool stuff to have. So you don't have to get as mad at the finale now, knowing that there's good stuff behind it for sure.
And so I'm going to move us into our film review of the week, and that's Caught Stealing. This is Darren Aronofsky's dark crime comedy starring Austin Butler. You also have Zoe Kravitz, Vincent D'Onofrio, Liev Schreiber, Regina King, Bad Bunny. You've got a pretty loaded cast. So this takes place in New York back in the 90s, that we have a guy, Hank, played by Austin Butler, who, in high school was a promising baseball star. He was all expected to, be picked high in the draft and have this legendary baseball career and had his whole life in front of him. But then a tragedy occurred and he just never really recovered from that. And so we jump into the present day for him, and I think it was 1998.
Yep.
That he comes back to his apartment with his girlfriend, Yvonne, played by Zoe Kravitz. But his neighbor Russ, played by Matt Smith, just over-the-top punk rocker with the, spiked mohawk and everything else. He's got to go to London to see his dad because something's wrong. And they ask him to watch his cat while he's away. And this just escalates into madness because Russ is involved with the gangs and the mafia and everyone around New York, and that brings Hank into it, which it did have a dynamic to it that was, it tries to hit you a little bit emotionally, but it does keep pretty high on the comedic aspects of this film.
For sure. And us giving that premise is not spoiling any of the movie, in fact, but that is kind of the premise of this film. And this film is about, just Hank getting himself intertwined in all of the mess that Russ left behind for him to get kind of mixed up in. So you have him, you see the scene in the trailer of him getting beat up by a couple of guys who are looking for Russ, and it just kind of spirals out of from that into just an absolute ride of chaos and violence and humor and just a ton of stuff and like drama too. Like there was like a good mix of things in this film that I gotta admit, man, I'd had kind of lower expectations for, despite the cast and the director. Like I'm gonna go in with some pretty low expectations and see if it can match or it exceeded. And I really do think it exceeded every expectation I had of this film. This film was a ton of fun. It was violent. It was gritty. It was dark in places that it needed to be. And I really enjoyed the story that they told in this film. And I really think Austin Butler did some of his best work in this movie. Like he carries so much in this film that he really shines when he gets the chance to lead in this film, and it was just an absolute joy to watch, and one that we definitely had a lot of fun in the theater watching.
Yeah, I had a ton of fun. It was ridiculous and over the top at times, but it kept you, like nothing really felt out of place with the film. Like the characters are supposed to be a little bigger and over the top.
For sure.
His conversations with his mom that only talks about the Giants and how they're doing with baseball and everything. And you do get to stay through the credits. You get to see some extra scenes and stuff with that as well. And you get a cat at the center of it all because you get that he's not a cat fan. Of course, you get Zoe Kravitz saying, "I like cats." Like, little bit of a throwback that she's played, Selena Kyle and Catwoman and stuff. Seemed like a little in joke there. Like, yeah, I like cats, but everyone did well. Like, it's one that it's the only thing we talked about really with the movie afterwards is that talk to you that I like that the trailer did give you a solid look at the film, but it didn't kind of give away all the big moments.
Sure.
Didn't kind of give away because it did unfold a little bit differently than I thought it was going to, and the trailer didn't give that away. Like it hit some of the highlights of the characters and stuff, but didn't really show you exactly how it was going to play out. And you get Liev Schreiber and Vincent D'Onofrio as the Hebrews, and a funny play of a Jewish mafia gang type guys who were driving an old Woody van, and
just inconspicuous.
It was entertaining. And Matt Smith, playing Russ was really kind of crazy over the top. He had a little bit, and this is just a little spoiler, a little less in the film than I expected to see him in, but what he was in played well, and it worked well for what the story needed to be. It didn't really need his character to be more than what it was.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. Regina King as, Roman, the police officer in this film, she's fantastic in so many things she's in. You get Bad Bunny, who's kind of this I don't want to spoil it too much, but he's kind of like a leader-ish of a couple of guys, too, that go and pay Hank a visit, and everybody's trying to, it's all around money and who's owed money, right? So it's kind of the central theme of this. They're all trying to get after this money that they feel they're owed, and how they all play off of each other and how they intertwine, we won't spoil here, but it's a ton of fun, man. Like, it kept you entertained throughout the entirety of the film. Everything moved along at a nice, brisk pace. This is just under 2 hours of a film, and it's one thing I could really praise the film for is its pacing. Like, it takes a little bit of a second to take a breath from some really crazy and serious stuff that happens. Let you catch your breath, have a good laugh, and then you're jumping right back into the mix with action and movement in the story. And like it was just so much fun to watch, and the pacing of it, like, I can't praise it enough. Like it flowed so smoothly in this story that it was super easy to follow along with. And I like a good film that when you get done watching it, it doesn't feel like you've been watching it for 2.5 hours. Like, this breezed through so quick. It didn't feel like we were in the theater almost 2 hours, which we were, but I just have nothing but good things to say about this movie for sure.
Yeah, and when it went dark, it went dark.
Very.
I mean, there's some bloody violence, there's some torture scenes and stuff in it as well that you have. Like, it'll go dark, but I like that and this is a praise to Austin Butler, that he brought the emotion that was needed for those scenes after the darkness. Absolutely. And to bring us back into the comedic elements or bring us back into that darker, more emotional place. Like, he carried that very well because he's a guy who just does not have any good luck at all. Like, everything that could go wrong for him goes wrong, and there's a lot of death and a lot of people around him getting hurt. But and some jokes about his neighbor, because one of his neighbors is always nosy and complaining about stuff. But I've got a bone to pick because they make him a web designer and they make fun of that. Like, it's okay to be a web designer for a living. Like, come on now.
Shut up, Dwayne.
But like I said, it'll hit you with that darkness, and then it'll hit you with some levity, with some light, lighter humor, but then it'll get into some, like, that's a mix. It's dark but also humorous, and it balances that really well. Like, it sets that tone early on, and it stays within its boundaries. Like, it'll crank up the darkness and it'll crank up the humor, but it stays right in the wheelhouse. It never gets too absurd and over the top from what it's like been doing. Like, it gets absurd and over the top, but it's all within everything that they've been establishing and working with. So I thought it worked really well. Like, everyone did their roles fun. There was, I wouldn't say exactly some surprises and twists. It does try to twist and surprise you a little bit, but it was more that I was so engrossed with the film that I was looking, okay, what's going to happen next? What is he going through next? What are we doing next? And it wasn't more that I was waiting for a surprise. I'm just like, all right, let's see what absurd, crazy thing happens to Hank now.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a twist about the midway point in the film that kind of kicks off the second half of the film that kind of takes it a little bit of a direction, which you kind of do, but yeah, like this is one that's, you don't have to be shocked or wowed by it, but it just does such a good job of like just telling this good story about like a guy who just happens to be neighbors with the wrong person and just kind of gets mixed up inadvertently with the wrong people. Just, it's like how one misstep can just trigger an avalanche of events, and it's such a good, well-told original story here that I got a lot of enjoyment out of. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was expecting it to be kind of this quirky, film that does a little bit but doesn't. I was surprised at how far it took some of the violence too. Like some of the stuff, it was just like unapologetically brutal in certain respects, and I appreciated that for the story that it was telling because it felt authentic. And I think that was something that I really appreciated. Was this felt like a story you could legitimately see happening to somebody in this circumstance. Like it's over the top in personality, but not over the top in practicality, if that makes sense. Like this legitimately feels like something would happen if you got mixed up with the wrong people.
Yeah, and you do have like absurdly over the top with one of the henchmen with the Russians who kind of acts like a dog most of the time and can't be controlled, but we've seen that a million times in different films. There's guys and henchmen out there like it, and yeah, that's a situation you could feel like he's just, because it's all about just misconceptions and being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and just just bad luck of things just unfolding the way it does, because it's just it just places those moments so perfectly in there that it's just like, oh, you can see like, yeah, he was going to go check on the cat and he runs into the mob guys, and well, because of that kind of kept linking and spiraling, and then you realize this and you realize that, and then you get other people involved because there's even more. But even that the core part of the story was an accident. It wasn't like someone was doing anything really badly wrong or anything like that. It was an accidental occurrence that just set off these dominoes for everybody. But I appreciated that, how it told a story. Like it could be one of those more generic mob type of comedy films, but it gave just enough to be unique to what it was trying to do. Like it's not the most unique film you'll ever watch, but it is for what it tried to do. Like it's a baseball related, because I even questioned you, like, how much is this going to be about baseball? Because we heard going in, all right, well, he's an ex-baseball player who gets caught up with the mob and the crime. Like, okay, is it just going to be a one-time thing? Like, oh, he played baseball. Well, baseball does have a good thematic element all the way throughout the film, and it wasn't just kind of a throwaway part of it, because caught stealing is a baseball term and everything else in there. So it kind of wrapped everything up that worked really well. And you said it flowed really well too. Like there was no real pacing issues. It went from beginning to end in a very smooth, good manner that gave us an ending that was very fitting for what has happened and transpired throughout the entire film.
For sure. It's definitely one that I hope people go check out and, get to enjoy this for sure. But Caught Stealing is the new film by Darren Aronofsky. It stars Austin Butler, and it's a wonderful, chaotic journey through a guy who just happens to go check on a cat at the wrong time, and everything just kind of avalanches from there. It's the best way I could describe it without spoiling the film, but the film is paced wonderfully. The action is on point. The comedy is mixed in there as well. Like, it's a great emotionally balanced film that I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 grade for me, because like you said, it's not a perfect movie, but it does so much so well that it's got a high rewatchability for me. I do plan on going and seeing this again. I may go to the theater even and see it a second time, which is not something I do for a ton of films, but I really, really enjoyed the pacing of this movie and just everything that we got from it. It was a really fun journey that didn't make me feel like I was sitting through a 2-hour film with how well it was paced.
Yeah, and I agree. It's a well-balanced, solid, dark crime comedy that mixes emotion with some good darkness of death and other things that happen with action, along with some sillier aspects to kind of keep it as light as they possibly could with telling this. Like, it was a very enjoyable film that I'm giving an 8 as well. Like, as you said, Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz, everybody did their roles really well. They all had a certain thing that they had to do in the film, and they all did it really well. The pacing was good. The soundtrack and the score and stuff behind it was light, but filled it with what it needed to be. Matt Smith was fun for what he had to do in Here's Russ, being that punk rocker guy. Like, it was just a really enjoyable dark comedy. Like, you've got to go into it knowing that it is a dark comedy. It's violent, it's bloody, it's got a lot of darkness to it, but it's got a lot of light and levity to it, which made it a really good film because it was so well balanced.
For sure. And Matt Smith just, I can't not see him in House of the Dragon, and then him coming in a character like this was just a ton fun flip of the switch for me. Just like, I know he's been in other things as well, but having Matt Smith in this as well was just a ton of fun. And Uh, Also, credit to, we didn't really talk about her too much here, but Zoe Kravitz did a phenomenal job for her part in this film as well. Like, she's so good and just playing that kind of moral compass for Hank a little bit in this film, and just wanted to give her a shout out as well. But definitely one worth going into theaters.
Yeah, but Caught Stealing, it will be in theaters this upcoming week. We got an early look at it. We highly recommend you go and checking out. It is a really enjoyable time in theaters to see this film. If you go check it out, come to our socials next week and let us know what you thought about it.
By now, you're probably wondering about the canister in front of us here that we've had featured throughout this entire program. We can now announce that we are partnered with Dubby Energy. Dubby Energy is a clean energy drink to give you focus with no crash or jitters like other energy drinks. Dubby does contain vitamins, amino acids, and 150 milligrams of caffeine.
It also features 0 calories, no sugar, no fillers, and as a dad, I really appreciate the no artificial dyes. Use code WBTP to save 10% off your Dubby Energy orders, and look for a direct link in the audio and video descriptions.
Yeah, we're thankful for our new partnership with Dubby, but now I want to move into our TV review of the week. That's Alien Earth, the brand new series on FX and Hulu, created by Noah Hawley. This takes place 2 years before the events of the first Alien film, but I feel like it's more of a parallel timeline to the Alien films. But what you have is these two groups, Weyland-Yutani and Prodigy, who are kind of seeking out specimens and trying to create the next advancements in technology and science, and just basically two powerhouse companies trying to one-up each other, basically, which of course is, you know, corporate greed at its finest, but very representative in this show. But you have Boy Cavalier, who's kind of the head of Prodigy, is creating these experiments with these kids and putting them, basically taking these terminally ill or sick kids and putting them, their entities, into synthetic beings and creating beings that'll never age, that are almost like superhuman in some cases, where they're just getting this fresh start. It's a very interesting take on, you know, where science could go in the future and what happens when corporate greed goes too far, that kind of thing. So you have that, and then you have the whole alien integration thing that happens as well in these first couple episodes, where it takes maybe a couple minutes to really get going, but once it gets going in that first episode, by the end of it, you really just jump off until these next couple episodes, and I'm really excited for the direction of the show.
Yeah, it's a really interesting mix because, as you mentioned, they have come out and said, like, we're not exactly going for full canon with this. We're taking bits and pieces of what we want, right, and then we're kind of making it our own thing. Because you're dealing with the Weyland-Yutani company, you're dealing with Prodigy. There's a bunch of different companies that we've learned that are taking over planets and countries and everything else. And I really liked it opened up with the Weyland-Yutani ship, where they have these alien species and stuff on it. Gave that very much alien vibe. It looked like it could have been a scene out of the first Alien. Sure. With it. Like, they kept the same aesthetics, the same look to the people, giving them that 70s, look to their style. And then when we get to Earth, it gets really interesting because, you've got cyborgs, you've got synthetics, and Prodigy's making these first of a kind type of synthetics with a human mind in them. But that is where it gets kind of weird and odd, and I'm really interested to see where they go with it because, you've got an adult cast here that are all mentally children because they're like 10, 11, 12, 13, somewhere in that range, where they're all, as you said, all terminally ill kids that are now adults, and they all get named after Peter Pan characters because they show them that. So you've got a interesting mix of showing like Peter Pan and like Ice Age and other stuff like that is mixed in, and because you've got our main character being called Wendy, and you have all that. It's got a really interesting blend of what they're doing there, and you learn pretty quickly that Boy is not a very good guy who's just all about him and his needs and his wants and stuff. And we get a really interesting mix of how this is going to play out because the ship crash lands on Earth, but it crash lands in Prodigy territory. And so, Yutani is trying to figure out, well, I want my ship back. I'll pay you whatever it needs to get my ship back. But Boy's like, you know what? It's in my territory. There's something in there they really want. Well, now I want it because they want it. And what they want is the xenomorphs and all the alien creatures.
Whew, it really just kind of kicks in at that point where the action just goes crazy because, once you get these xenomorphs out and involved, good things don't tend to happen here. So you get, Wendy, who, despite being a synthetic and supposedly being free of emotion and things, still has the mindset of a young girl who misses her family, and come to find out her brother works on Earth, and he gets attacked, and he's going and trying to rescue people during this alien invasion. So she wants to go and help her brother. So that kind of leads them to wanting to, go down to Earth and help, but also, serve this guy's, Boy Cavalier's purpose of getting the specimens and coming back. And you just get this really interesting mix of these kids that are in these synthetic bodies now. And you also throw in one of my personal favorite actors. I love Timothy Olyphant so much. Like, he's the big name in this show, the most recognizable name in the show. He plays Kirsch, who's kind of this, is he a cyborg? Is he a synthetic? Is he kind of a mix of both? Like, he's kind of this, kind of like Prodigy's number 2. He's like Boy Cavalier's right-hand man, kind of. But he's also kind of got his own thing going on. I'm wondering if they're going to explore that a little bit more when they get into this. But he's phenomenal in this. He's so good in everything he's in. I love Timothy Olyphant so much. But, you have, just brutal action in this. Like, they do not skimp on the brutality in this show. This is TVMA for a reason. It gets very violent, very graphic, and is not afraid to do so when you're dealing with xenomorphs and facehuggers and other different potential, type of alien specimens that we get to see here. And it's not short on the violence, for sure, when it gets into it.
You also got Babu Sise, who plays Morrow. So he was a cyborg on the Weyland-Yutani ship. He's the only one who survived, and you get really dark with him where he... And we are, if you haven't seen yet, we're going a lot of spoilers for this. Yeah. It's 3 episodes deep into it, and we're doing a collection of our thoughts on all 3 of them here together. And he has, one of his crew members comes to the cockpit and wanting in, and he seals it and puts himself into a box so that he can survive. And then once he gets back down to Earth, it's kind of his mission now from, Yutani. He needs to get the specimens back. That's all that really matters. So it's an interesting look between not only what the corporate side is doing, but you have Kirsch doing what Prodigy wants here with the children, the Lost Boys, as they're called. Of course, another Peter Pan reference in that as well. And then you have Morrow doing what Yutani wants, but it gets an interesting dynamic when he meets up with these synthetics that have memories and thoughts, and he's kind of perplexed by it. He's like, okay, what is going on here? You mentioned parents, but synthetics don't have parents. And so he's kind of going off of his script about what he's supposed to be doing as a cyborg for Yutani. He's trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean? What's going on here? And he starts to kind of look at things a little differently already. But it's going to be really interesting to see how, after these first 3 episodes, the story really kind of takes off, because it is a little bit of a slow burn. It takes a little bit to fully get going in it, but we know there's going to be a lot of corporate espionage type of stuff, but exactly how dangerous these xenomorphs are going to be on Earth, because by the 3rd episode, we have a lot of it being brought into containment and being brought back to Neverland, which is the research center for Prodigy and everything. But, whenever you're dealing with facehuggers and xenomorphs and these aliens, it never goes right when you try to contain them.
No, for sure. And it can't possibly end well. I cannot wait for this Boy Cavalier to get his comeuppance at some point. I was maybe 20 minutes into the first episode, and I'm like, I can't wait for this guy to get
don't like him.
Don't like him, which, hats off, doing a great job of, playing that person that you want to see get their just due. But yeah, you talk about the cyborg taking an interest in the synthetic beings, because this is kind of a big secret. Like, nobody really knows that Prodigy's doing this with these kids. So obviously nobody knows what the heck is happening. And he's like, he could tell they're synthetic, but there's something more to him there. And he kind of takes up this odd, trying to spark a relationship or a friendship even with slightly one of the synthetics. And it's a very interesting back and forth where he kind of implants something and maybe finds a way to hack him and be able to communicate telepathically with him. It's kind of an interesting relationship being formed there that wonder how that back and forth is going to be in these upcoming episodes. But I gotta say, man, I was really impressed with the way these first couple episodes came off, because it is a good mix of world building, which you have to do. Everybody likes to say it's a bit of a slow burn, which it kind of has to be if you want to take care of this world and stories. Like, you can't just jump in and not have people have a reason to care about these people. Like, they do a good job of laying out who these synthetics are, where they came from, kind of a little bit of their upbringing, and then the events happen that kick off their need to kind of jump into action. And I appreciate that it took its time a little bit to get there in that first episode, but you're getting a little bit more of that, a little bit of that storytelling more as you're moving along here. And I'm excited to see where this takes it. Like you said, we're only 3 episodes in. We got another, 7 episodes left of the season? 6 or 7 episodes?
Either goes to 8 or 10 episodes.
It's somewhere in that sweet spot. I can't remember either, but we're kind of just getting started with this show, and we're getting the weekly drops, so we kind of don't know what's coming, which I enjoy, man. There's so much. I know a lot of people prefer I just give me the all episodes so I can watch them. In some cases, obviously, but I kind of like a little bit of the slow rollout too, that we're doing like a weekly watch, a weekly conversation about this potentially moving forward. But like the fact that we've jumped in here, we may wait a couple weeks before we do another one. I forget what our schedule.
I think we're gonna do them in block, like about 2-3 episode blocks here.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm excited to see where this jumps forward now, because watching it with a couple people every week, and it's been a fun conversation to have while we're watching it. Like, just some of the crazy stuff that happens in it. I'm excited for it, because it definitely, like it said, it earns the TVMA rating. It doesn't skimp on being brutal and violent at points that it needs to be, but it's also telling a really interesting story that I'm kind of waiting to see the whole picture and how it comes together.
And it's been an interesting mix with its style too, because like I said, it's made you feel like with the ship in the beginning that it was very much like Alien, but then it has some slow-mo, quick cuts, and other stuff of a different style. It ends every episode with a rock song, which is also kind of intriguing that they're doing that as well. But yeah, it's got a really intriguing mix of kind of paying tribute and honor to the Alien franchise that's come before, but also trying to mix in its own thing. And I will give props to the actors for the Lost Boys, because, they're adults trying to play that their 11-year-old's mind is trapped in their head, because you get that where at times they look and they act and they're being like an adult, but you're a kid still. And you can almost see that in Wendy's eyes. Like, I can just look at the way Wendy is looking around the rooms and looking at things, that's a childlike gaze than an adult doing. And I think they do a fine job, because that can be a very difficult thing to portray properly. Sure. We've had plenty of times where adults have been portraying kids and it comes off slapsticky or rough, and you can have a few of those silly moments in here, but I think overall it's played really well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see where we get. We've got episodes dropping every week right now, and it's fun to go along on this journey, man. It's really fun. I'm actually looking forward to this every week when it comes out. I think the new episodes drop each and every Tuesday on FX or on Hulu. I'd forget when they're airing on FX, if they're airing at the same time.
I believe it's Tuesday night, and I think it's live on Hulu at the same time.
So maybe at the same time drop, but tons of fun, man. I'm really enjoying this show for sure. I'm excited to see where they go for the rest of this season, and hopefully for another season or two beyond that. I don't know the lifeline of this show yet necessarily, but I'm having a lot of fun watching it. If you're a fan of the Alien franchise, this feels a lot like old school Alien. Like, it's got that feel to it. If you're a fan of this franchise, definitely give this show an opportunity. I think you'll really get some enjoyment out of it.
And there's one thing I wanted to touch about, and I want to see what your opinion is about Hermit. And we're going to go a little spoiler with this because we have to talk about it. But, in the Alien franchises, you don't get many people. It's a very small number of people that survive xenomorph encounters. And he's survived like 4 times already in this. So that's the only thing that kind of took me out. Like, we know Hermit is Wendy's brother before she was, brought into this body. And he's part of the search and rescue team. As you mentioned, he's, gets a run of the xenomorph, but he runs into the xenomorph 3 to 4 different times. Like, he gets stabbed by its tail and other things with it. But it's like the amount of times in 3 episodes he's already survived a xenomorph attack has almost gotten comical to me, because it's like, there's not many people in the Alien franchise other than Ripley and a couple others that have ever survived being face to face with a xenomorph. And he survived it 3 to 4 times already, especially a very bloody encounter. Because we do get a very different xenomorph in this, because there's one scene with him where he's, been captured by the xenomorph, and it actually sets up a trap to try to capture. And that's something we really haven't seen that much in the Alien franchise. But it's just like, it's already gotten to a ridiculous amount of times that Herman has survived. Like, you don't get that many chances against a xenomorph.
It's a little bit of a different layering for TV versus movies, right? I have a feeling, just to kind of project a little bit, don't think he's going to... I think that clock will eventually run out for him.
Or he's a Terminator.
Or he's going to be the one that survives everything. Who knows? But I feel like they're setting us up for a little bit of an emotional gut punch at some point with him. That, for the most part, for these other people that you've seen die, you're not really emotionally connected to it. There's got to be something at some point where they kind of just rip our hearts out, and I'm waiting for it to happen. And I think his luck will run out eventually. Like, he's going to get set up to a point where he can't get out of it. And
I do feel if they do it too many times, and it's going to lose any emotional impact. Because, like, all right, you've survived a xenomorph 700 times so far. Now you're finally dead. All right, good riddance. Let's move on to something else. Because there's that fine line. If you do it too many times, it's like, all right, now this person has gone like almost superhuman, and he is a human. He is not a synthetic or cyborg or anything else. Like, he's surviving what a lot of other people have not.
It's very jaded of you, man. That's very, it's very...
Well, it's just interesting. I know. We're 3 episodes in, and it's 3 to 4 times that he's gone face to face, and he's gone. Like I said, Ripley.
Yeah.
You could probably have a handful of people through, even including Romulus, where 2 people survived. You've got Ripley, and you've got... I try to block out 3 and 4 basically from my memory anymore with that, but you've only had a couple people who've ever survived, and his count is almost higher than Ripley's now.
You didn't like Alien Resurrection? It's crazy. I figured that would be one of your favorites, but no, I agree. But that's the balance they got to strike, and we'll figure out if they get there. Yeah, he's survived an absurd amount of times, but even the ways that he makes it through kind of makes sense, because he's just barely scraping by.
Yeah, he's barely scraping by.
Circumstances happen that let him escape how he does, and I just feeling they're setting that up for that emotional gut punch eventually. Like, I don't think he's going to survive many more encounters with the xenomorph at that point, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. But it is an interesting dynamic, because they're not supposed to know. Like, Wendy and her family, and of course you've got one of the kids who just cannot keep a secret and is letting everybody know everything. And it's like, this is supposed to be a secret, because all part of these kids who are sick getting put into these synthetics is supposed to be, well, their family is told they're dead. They're not alive anymore. It's not known by the family that they're here. And so this, Hermit is that first one that already gets to know, like, hey, this is my sister that I attended a funeral for, that I thought was dead, and she's still alive inside of the synthetic's body. So there is that interesting intrigue there that you're really hopefully going to get to explore, that of what Prodigy is doing, and about people trying to live on through the synthetics, and what it means now that her family knows of it. Like, is it not going to be the xenomorphs that get Hermit, or is it going to be Boy Cavalier who ends up taking him out, because he knows, like, there's clearly nothing that's off limits to Boy that he will do for what he wants to do, because he basically said, like, my motivation for all of this is I just want someone who is going to intellectually challenge me.
Sure.
Like, he's creating synthetic people just to challenge his knowledge and his brain power and stuff. And you also already got, and this is the last thing I'll touch on here with it, is a little bit of intrigue already at the end of the 3rd episode, that we get one of the Lost Boys with Curly. She's kind of turning on Wendy already. Like, you've got, all right, why does Wendy get to be the leader? Why does this? Like, I'm actually a little mature, and I have these aspirations, and you should like me and want me. And it's going to set up, there's already so many different layers of dynamic that we get outside of the xenomorphs and all that, because we got Kirsch, doing some experiments on what they have, and he's leading that up in Neverland, and it's really got a lot that's keeping me intrigued to want to keep returning to this.
For sure, they're definitely leading us along on this journey that we're excited to check out too. But first 3 episodes of Alien Earth are available on FX and Hulu. Come check come check them out. Come talk to us in our Discord. Come talk to us on our YouTube comments. Let us know if you're watching along too, what your thoughts on the show are so far. I'm excited for the rest of this season to play out for sure, because there's so many more layers and things they can explore in this. And for the love of God, get Boy Cavalier his comeuppance sooner than later. I'm going to be very satisfied when they get to that point. Let him meet a face hugger or something. We'll see what happens for sure.
Yeah, but it's been a very fun and interesting series so far. Like, I'm really intrigued about what they're doing. Like, you've got to let your brain go a little bit that you're expecting this to be Alien or Aliens or even Alien Romulus or something. It's trying to do something new and different as the first, Alien series. And it also needs time to world build and do that. You're not trying to get to that. I mean, these are hour-long episodes. You're not trying to get to that punch and action and horror right away with every single episode. It's got a story to tell, and it needs time to tell it all. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun with it so far.
Tons of fun for sure. I'm excited where it goes from here.
It was an interesting week, though. Like, Caught Stealing was, I was hopeful for it going into it, that it was going to be a good movie. And like I said, based off the trailers, I'm glad they didn't reveal fully everything. Like, it still gave you a good feeling about what the movie was going to be, but it allowed a lot of that kind of adventure that Hank goes on to live and breathe. And it was a surprise that I'm happy that it turned out as good as I was hoping it was going to be.
Yeah, you can still make a good trailer without revealing the entire plot of the film. I know, it's crazy, right? But they gave you just enough nuggets in there to kind of set your expectations a little bit, and then it went and did its thing, and I'm glad it did, and I'm glad it didn't give us all the beats of the story in that. You got a little bit of a look at the characters that were involved, and it was a fun journey. I really hope people give that one a chance, because it's a really, really solid film. It's an original story. If you're tired of all the franchises, I'm looking at you right there in the camera. If you were tired of all the franchises and the 150,000 different sequels, go support these original stories. Go see these in the theater. It will help get more of these things made. For the love of God, go support these new independent stories that aren't franchises. If you're tired of them and it's keeping you from going to the theater, go see these. Give these a chance. We really think you'll like this film for sure. We had a lot of fun watching.
Yeah, you can't complain and say you don't like just how everything's a sequel and a prequel or a reboot or a remake, and then you don't go out and support their original new stuff that's coming out, because just like Weapons or with Caught Stealing, like, if you want more original stuff, you have to see it. So the studios are like, all right, we'll spend money on doing this, because what's making them money right now? Sequels, prequels, reboots, remakes, all that stuff. Like, if you want the original stuff to keep being made, you've got to go out and see it. And yeah, Caught Stealing is one that's well worth going and checking out in theaters. Like, it's not for kids. It's definitely a rated R, dark comedy, violent crime film, but it is a very enjoyable film that, if we want to see more of films like that, you got to go out and check it out in theaters.
You have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Studios will not invest the time or money into original stories if people do not support them. We're very strongly about that. Don't get me wrong. We love our franchises too, but we love supporting new original stories as well, and we're excited for this one. We were happy to get an early sneak preview of it. Go check it out this week when it's in theaters.
Even with Alien Earth, we've had a ton of Alien films by now, and I've already seen some chatter and complaining about how kind of different and what it's taking and not sticking to canon, but it's another one. This is trying to do something a little more original with Alien. You got to give it a chance as well. Like, even this is a franchise and this is a prequel, but it's trying to be something new and different, kind of just like Fede Alvarez's, Alien Romulus films. It was trying to pay homage and tribute to everything, but also trying to be something new and original that it's trying to set up. Like, even though those are franchises and prequels and sequels and stuff, you got to give it a chance to be something different and new. If you're just expecting it to be Alien or Aliens, you're going to be disappointed, because it's trying to give a little bit of that, but also something that its own. Yeah.
It wants its own identity, and there's nothing wrong with that too. But yeah, go see these films, man. Go see these shows, support these things, and hopefully we get more content like it that we can talk about.
Yeah, it's just an interesting week for me with having the Kpop Demon Hunters sing-along, going directly into Caught Stealing after that. I had like an hour in between, seeing those films and then having 3 episodes of Alien Earth to go through. Like, I got a good mixture of just about everything.
You had a good journey this week. I'm happy for you. I'm happy you got to see Kpop Demon Hunters as well.
But it was fun. It was a lot of fun, even though, like I said, there was some craziness with it. You kind of got to expect it with those type of sing-along, additional type of things. It kind of warned you and telling you, hey, it's a sing-along, you're going to have some talking, you're going to have some singing and dancing. Like, you expect that. But, yeah, it was a fun mix of stuff this week.
Yeah, you definitely got your share of craziness, but we got some craziness coming up next week, too, for sure.
But, yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Next week, we are going to be reviewing the unrated version of the Toxic Avenger reboot. So this is one that a lot of people weren't sure if we were going to see it. Like, they couldn't find a distributor for it. They weren't sure what they were going to do. And they finally got one that's going to put out a completely unrated cut in theater. So we don't know what to expect out of that one.
I've been looking forward to this for so long. This is going to be a ton of fun to talk about. Peter Dinklage, one of my favorite actors as well, just so freaking good. And I'm excited for the Toxic Avenger. That's going to be one to definitely talk about how crazy and over the top it is. We're going to let you know about it next week for sure.
But as always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.